Welcome to Badger Tough Inside the Circle. I'm assistant coach Craig Pokorny here with Hall of Fame head coach Alan Pokorny. We're here every week to talk the week in Bennington Wrestling, how things went, things to come, and quick rundown of the show this week. We're going to talk EMC duels, a lot about EMC duels, and a bunch of duels coming up, not dual tournaments, but a couple duels coming up this week. Just a reminder, you guys can submit questions to us via email, via Twitter, anything you want answered on the air, let us know and we'll try to get to those. This week, as has been all season long, this show is provided or sponsored by Midwest Designs, midwestdesigns.org. We've got getting a lot of inquiries about these clear bags.
Craig was modeling it at EMC's.
Yep, me modeling them at EMC's. So borrowed grays. This one's grays. So we do a lot of these clear bags that you need at state wrestling, state duels, probably the Fracas next year. So check them out at midwestdesigns.org. The backpacks are normally $25, and we have the normal totes that you see a lot of people carrying around. But we have extra straps on ours, and those are normally $20, but during January we're gonna take $5 off each of them, so that we don't get hopefully don't get slammed in February. So order now. Go on to midwestdesigns.org. Send us a contact form. We can make them with these designs in this color. We can do different colors. We can tweak the design. So just hit us up on the contact form, and we'll get the design you want.
Maybe you have to have Gray come walk around the duels this week and show it off to all the parents.
There we go. We'll have to bring her around and have her show everybody what they look like. So, general recap of the week. Just normal practices this week, basically leading up to the EMC duels. Any other things you want to touch on that, or some stuff from the week past?
Well, just the practices, we had a little bit longer week, with 4 practices in a row without any competition. We kind of needed that to catch things up. Although one disappointing thing, I thought that I didn't think we practiced very well this week. Wednesday, obviously the kids were a lot later getting out. If parents are picking up and notice that, or part of that was, there's a couple reasons. We were doing some challenge matches and a lot of blood time in those, so that kind of extended things. And we had a little extra work at the end because I just wasn't pleased with the way things are going. And, sometimes that happens. Kids throughout the season kind of get to a stretch where they're getting bored with, the drills and things like that, and got to refocus. So, that was a little disappointing, and I think that led up to some of the early wrestling. I thought we didn't wrestle well early on in the EMC duels, and so hopefully, this shows, our kids that we need to focus all the time. Hopefully, a good learning lesson. And NS coaches too. We got also do a good job of continuing to be on them and making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be doing it, and things like that. So, kind of a mixed bag. It was a week we needed to get things installed, but I think kids got a little bit bored with things too, or it almost kind of overly excited. I think because they're on break and
right,
and getting a lot of sleep and not going to school and stuff like that. So they're kind of seem to be a little hyped up, I guess.
Yeah, usually
not focused.
Usually we kind of hit on it before. We have more of a break going into Badger duels, so there's a few lighthearted days or a lighthearted day in there that kind of gets the kids more relaxed and then they can refocus after that. But it's with the short break this year, maybe that kind of led to that a little bit, led to it a bit, and didn't have that normal Christmas break, I guess you could say, before we had to really get back to it. But since we're past the halfway point now, so really gotta refocus and get to it.
Sure, time wise, we're 2/3 of the way done. I mean, it's going to come real fast. Less than 2 weeks, we're at Lexington, and like I told some of the guys who've been around before, Lexington feels like the end of the season,
Right?
Because really it is. It's Lexington EMC tournament, and then districts and state. Well, there's now the state duels in there too, possibly. So, but we're right at the end of the season, so coming around quick. I think the guys will respond well to it. We'll talk on Monday more about it, and I think they'll respond well. They generally do, but sometimes you need to have that experience to understand that, hey, coaches are really they're right in what they're saying. Hey, we got to focus, got to have good practices, and we're not the only ones that say it. And you listen to Scott Frost this last fall. When he talked about the great practices they had, the better the practices they had, the better they played on the weekends, and
Right.
and that goes the same with wrestling. So, hopefully they'll learn from it. I believe so. These kids seem to be real good about that and picking up on that, and we'll be better for it in the long run. Just made things a little tough the first couple duels,
Yep.
Getting things focused. So anyhow, just another real quick thing on, recapping the week, and this is more, a response from last weekend with the Badger duels. I had some questions, and this is not because anybody emailed me, or anybody specifically asked this question. I've had, several people, several of the kids ask. And others email asking questions, and it's a very good question, and so it has to do with JV wrestling and the Badger duels. Do their team points that they scored count towards a varsity letter? And the quick answer is no, they don't. And the easiest way to explain it is when we talk about NSAA and what they require, or what is allowed as far as district seating. You can't count JV matches. You can't count a varsity wrestler against a JV match either. So the JV matches are as if they don't happen, but they do. I mean, they're experienced. It was very valuable to our guys. I mean,
Right.
So it's huge for our guys to get that experience. But as far as like points, counting for points, also, if we were talking state records for takedowns, near falls, pins, all those type of things, they don't count JV matches.
Right.
So to be consistent with that, we don't count it as points towards a varsity letter. I know we could look at that and maybe or maybe not, but this is nothing new. It just happens to be the 1 year that we put it in our tournament.
Mm-hmm.
We've been going to a varsity tournament with the JVs for several years down in Freeman. That was a varsity tournament, but we sent a JV team. And again, according to NSA, the JV matches don't count towards anything, but they are experienced. And so, and even before we were going to Freeman, we've been when we used to be at High Plains.
Right.
We were allowed to enter JVs in the tournament, but those never counted towards any type of varsity letter or records or things like that. It's about gaining experience and getting better. And so to be consistent with what we've done in the past and consistent with the NSAA, that's why we don't count it.
You could also say, did their points count towards the varsity points at the event? Well, nope. So,
yeah, I mean, hey, because and I can see both sides.
mm-hmm.
They are wrestling against varsity people. That it's showing that they can compete with the varsity people,
Right.
and that's good. But again, it has to do with consistency with our takedowns or our wins and losses and everything else that counts with the NSAA. So, because we don't want to count one thing and not another, and then all of a sudden we're getting confusing as what we're counting, and
Right.
and then why don't you count this when you count that? And the simple thing is we just don't count anything, but it gives them a great opportunity to get some mat time. So anyhow, that kind of covers that, and now a JV wrestler wrestles in a varsity event. Excuse me, still got a little bit of that cold. But let's say EMC duels this last weekend. If one of our guys who was considered JV steps in for varsity, like Joe Wells stepped in, for Ryan, when he got hurt, and that counts as a varsity match.
Right.
Yes, because it's varsity team wrestling, and he's on there. It's no different than in any other sport. In football, if you're basically a JV football player and you go along to the varsity game and you get in that game, those are considered varsity yards if you're running the ball or whatever it is. So anyhow, I hope that makes sense. I don't know if everybody may or may not agree with it, but that's the reasoning. I'm always glad to answer any questions in this. And again, I had several questions from a few of the kids this week. And then I had one parent ask, and so it like I said, it's a fair question and a good question. And there's the answer, and hopefully everybody knows and at least understands why. And ultimately, the long run, what we're trying to do is help the kids get better and be better wrestlers and better people in the long run. So that's about it for as far as I'm concerned. Unless you anything to add about practice week or other general things that.
Nope, that's it for the week leading up to Friday. Friday we went down to Waverly Friday and Saturday for the EMC conference duels. Had a little unfortunate situation with Nebraska City where they weren't able to attend on Saturday, so the schedule got changed up a little bit, and we did not see Nebraska City on Saturday during our duel. They had to forfeit it to us since they weren't able to make it out. So that's why if you see a 1-0 score on the brackets, that's what happened there.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever been involved in it. I've heard about it before that's a possibility, a duel situation that you have a forfeit and it's a 1-0 duel, they call it, and it's extremely rare, but it did happen, and it was nothing anybody can do about it. It was like I said, it's an unfortunate situation for them, and they didn't want to punish any of the other EMC teams by not coming, but they couldn't be there on Saturday because of a funeral they had to attend, and so that's why that happened.
Just continue from there about the EMC duels.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to go on to that or continue on that or where we're at. All right, as far as first talk about some of the individuals, how things went. Our AMC conference is extremely tough, and sometimes you run into kids or one after another are tough. So some of those weight classes are just loaded, and it's tough for those kids. And it's pretty rare that there isn't a tough weight class anywhere. We have the best conference in the state by far as Class B wrestling goes, and it shows every year in the state duels. We've had in the top 4 in the state duels almost every year at least 2 teams. I think one year we even had 3 teams. So that just shows how tough it is, and I've even felt. We've competed in the state duels, we've competed in EMC duels, and I don't know if this year will fit that criteria, but I know there's been a couple times in the past I felt that our EMC duels was tougher, from top to bottom and throughout the whole tournament than the state duels.
Right.
Just very tough tournament out there. So back to some individuals. We'll start off with the lower weights. Hunter Anderson, really, really pleased with how far he's came, and good examples. The kid from Elkhorn that he wrestled, he wrestled him at Boys Town and barely won. I think it was about a 2-point match or something like that, and then really it could have went either way. Well, he just dominated the kid. was up on by several points and pinned him. So it shows how far he's came. And he's, I could tell he's got some athleticism. He's a good athlete. To watch him in the weight room. I thought he had good strength for a 106 pounder, and as soon as he figured things out, and he's been picking up on things real quick here. So really pleased where he's at and where his progress is, and so really doing well. Certainly still has a long ways to go yet, but that's pretty normal. You don't see a guy in 2 months all of a sudden become a superstar,
right?
But his progress is very good. Walker ran into a buzzsaw this weekend. I mean, his bracket was loaded. One tough kid after another. And he did have match going his way pretty well, and kind of got away from him and ended up losing that match. But that was one I thought that he got some. He got lucky on some stuff and caught the kid on his back and thought, hey, this is how it goes. I'm gonna work this sloppy technique and get it all the time. Well, it worked a couple times and it quit working.
Yep.
So it's a good lesson, for a young kid to learn that, hey, let's focus on good technique. We get lucky once in a while on some slop. That's the last time you want to try that, and can focus on good technique and wrestle through. But I think Walker's coming along too. Obviously this weekend was rough for him. He went 1-5 for us, but a lot of that had to do with the competition. I mean, the kids were dang tough in his weight. He's coming along, and once he picks up some, excuse me, I might have to start taking these throat lozenges again. But anyhow, once he starts getting some more confidence and picking up on more experience and feeling better about it, I think he's just going to be fine. But okay, and then Gavin went 2-4 for us. He also had a really tough weight class, and his first match against Jackson Nielsen. Nielsen was an undefeated state champ last year. That's tough. To start off with that, and I know we talked a little bit about the style Blair likes to wrestle, and before we got on the air, it was a takedown, let him up type of thing, and when you talk to kids, that's more embarrassing than getting pinned, and getting into that conversation on styles. I don't know, maybe we'll later or maybe not. There's everybody has their style, how they want to wrestle.
Right.
There's positives and negatives to it, but that's how it is, and no different than in football. You got those people that throw the ball all over the field, and then those that run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So something if we decide to talk about later, we can. But otherwise, Gavin, he's working hard, and he's come along, but still certainly a long ways to go yet, and as with a lot of our young kids, and Gavin's actually done pretty well overall when you think about a freshman with the amount of experience he had some through the club, but not a ton. I can't remember what his overall record is, but it's not bad.
Right.
And so if he keeps working, it'll come around. Matthew Coe, he's done a fantastic job for us this year. I've been real happy with his progress, and he is one of those that you look at where he was at as a freshman. A lot of our freshmen are in that situation where very little experience, and he took a lot of lumps. In fact, most of our freshmen on the varsity are doing better than he did back then. Mm-hmm. But Matthew, he worked hard in the off season. He put in the time. You could see things improving last year in practice and in his technique, but didn't seem to be showing up on the mat yet. I kept telling his parents to be patient. It's coming, and it is this year. It's coming around. He's having a good season for us. Went 3-3. The kids who beat him are very good, and he wrestled some of them very tough. In fact, Taylor from Plattsmouth, I understand a 10-2 loss. Yes, that's a loss and a major decision, but last year that would have been a pin.
Right.
Maybe even a first period pin. So kind of in our books going into that, we're looking at that is most likely a pin situation where we're giving up 16 points. But instead he gave up 4. So that's saving us 2 points. In dual situation, those things are important.
I think that match, I don't want to say winding down, but it was a lot closer early third period than a major.
Yes.
He was getting frustrated, and in my opinion, stalling throughout the end of the second period, trying to hang on and get out of that second period to get a reset. So, even though it was a major, it seemed like a lot closer match until the very end.
Yeah, so a lot of good progress there, and again, the kids who beat him are very good. Every one of those are either state medalists or state medalist potential kids.
Right.
And he battled with some of them, so good progress. If he keeps working like he has been in the off season next year, I expect a lot more out of him that we should be really happy to see. Robert Greenwood. He went 3-3 again. One of those real tough weight classes. Even the ones that he won. Some of those are some darn good kids that he beat. Robert's one thing we need to get him to do is pick up his intensity again. He had a lot of confidence early in the season and was wrestling well, and now he's kind of backed off on his intensity out there. So that's something we'll be working on, helping him set up his shots a little bit better, and don't get discouraged too.
Right.
Sometimes the schedule that we have can get you discouraged. Going through the fracas with how tough those teams are, I mean, you can end up taking 3 or 4 losses there and come out doing real good. And the EMC duels coming out of there, you can have, again, 3 or 4 losses and still be wrestling well, but they're just tough. And that seasons you and makes you better down the road when we get to the districts and state. Because you're not going to see all those kids, when you get down to districts and state, you're going to only see 1 or 2 here or there. Now there's going to be the other side of the bracket, and people are going to knock each other out. So, you're still going to need to beat 1 or 2 of those, but it's not going to be one after another.
Right.
And here we're getting them ready for that. So, certainly gives us some things to work on, and he just got to keep working to get better. Now we got Colby Puck. He went 4-2, and he had a good tournament, I thought. He beat the Waverly kid who beat him last year. Mm-hmm. So those are things we like to see when we pass other guys up, and we see that, and we see that with Colby. He's starting to get wins over guys who had beaten him the previous year. Coach Fredrickson's called it the Colby Puck Revenge Tour, on getting revenge on some of the guys he beat him last year. So that was good to see.
Both of his matches were both of his losses were pretty close. A small technique tweak, and he wins both those matches, I think.
Right, and that's what I was going to get to next. But you're right there. And he lost in overtime in one of them, and in fact, I thought he was in great position in overtime to score. Working on a simple go behind that we work every single day. We start the first day of practice. We show, how to work go behinds because they're so important, and the hip pressure and angles and all that. And he just let up on something, and it was just enough for the kid to make an adjustment that. The kid ended up getting the takedown out of, but simple, proper technique wins that match. Mm-hmm. Same thing against the Blair kid. Simple, proper technique. And so just things that'll help him, like I said, in the long run. Colby's a smart wrestler and learns from things, and so hopefully this will help him. I know he's really liked the legs this year, working the legs, and I think he's going in a good direction with that. I need to get better at that as far as hip pressure, and really when you're putting both legs in, that's a move that you can't be nice with.
Right.
I mean, you got to be physical and mean with it, and I don't mean in a way to hurt somebody. You're not, hurt somebody, yes. Injure, no. That's the way we tell the guys. Pain is part of the sport. Applied properly, it's not. You don't hurt somebody just to hurt them. That's unsportsmanlike. You might apply pain to improve your position and where you're at, and that's part of the sport.
Tough crossface, some hip pressure, getting your legs off the mat, that sort of thing. That's all part of the sport.
Sure, and
it's not mean.
Right, and Colby just needs to get a little bit meaner with his technique on top, and if he does that, he's got the length and the leverage to really be good at it. And he's been improving throughout the season, but he's still got to get better at that. And once he does, he'll be tough. And and when we talk about mean, you got to be so mean that the mom wants to come down and throw in the towel, and that's actually happened once before for us. But several years ago, you have to read the Badger Tough book to hear that story. So I'm not going to give away that story about how mom came down on the stand and threw in the towel on his son out there wrestling. But and the son was a good wrestler too, so don't think it was one of our state champs against a little inexperienced guys. It was a state champ against a state medalist, and the kid kind of deserved it. But again, read the book.
Yep. So
buy the book and read the book. And,
there's your plug for the book.
Yeah, and just a funny story. But anyhow, got to get more physical and mean with his moves there. Zach, again had tough bracket, and one thing I did see out of Zach in a match or two, I saw his intensity pick up, and especially one match, and he wrestled like I thought he could. He's just been tentative this year, and that's something we just need to get his intensity up, and I think he'll have more success as we go along. So. We got to work on that. I know early in the year we thought he was a little behind on conditioning, and sometimes mentally that puts you behind too. But we just got to get him and say, hey, look at this match, and that's something we'll talk about too. Find that intensity, and when he did, he looked good. I thought, just got to get there. Okay, we had Luke McDonald. On the website, they got him going 4-1, but he actually went 5-1. They got a mistake there. I need to contact Waverly because they're administrators on their website. That they got Ryan Green wrestling twice against Gretna. Ryan did a nice job there, I guess. He beat one guy and then he got injured in the other match. So, but anyhow,
beat the same guy and also got injured to the same guy.
Basically, what they did is they put Ryan in for Luke, and so we'll fix that if you look on the website ever. But Luke, he, as a freshman in what would be called the middle weights or middle to upper weights, that's real tough to come in there, and especially in EMC conference. I thought his win over Blair was a good win, and that was a solid kid he beat. Plasma the kid's not bad. We bumped him up actually against Waverly and Plasma both, because we thought the way it was working, it would give us more team points and better chance at winning the duel. And it did work with Waverly, and with Plasma, I thought it also worked. That it gave us a better chance, but in the end we didn't win the duel. But certainly he's doing really well. The one match he lost, I thought mentally he broke down. I mean, that was more of a senior wrestling a freshman type, where they were physical with us and aggressive, and Luke's got to understand that when that happens, you just got to wrestle with good technique. You can't just let that bother you, and that got into his head, and the guy just ended up dominating him. But I think if he wrestles with solid technique, he's right in that match and maybe wins it. But a good lesson for him there too, and hopefully he can learn from that. We had Tristan got himself a little bit of varsity time too. Tough situation we put him in there, but I was proud of him for trying. It was short notice for him to be ready. Against Plattsmouth, because we bumped Luke up. We probably would have done that against Waverly too, except a couple things. First of all, they had already the JV match set up for him with Waverly, and if we cancel that, well, then they know something's up. Mm-hmm. And they may figure it out and may adjust for it. But and also he would be going against a guy that's about 5'2" and big arms. His legs are as big as Tristan's legs probably. Mm-hmm. So that wouldn't have gone well there. But he did go in tough situation, and I thought he battled well. Against Plattsmouth, end up getting pinned, but. He was wrestling tougher than I thought, and I thought, well, you know what, we might get out of this without getting pinned, and the way he was wrestling him, and right. But Tristan's one of those kids that's really new to wrestling, and I've really been happy with what I've seen out of him this year compared to last year. I've seen some big progress, so and I was happy with even how he wrestled in that match. I mean, eventually he got pinned, but that's just an experienced older guy. Figuring out how to get it done at some point, right. But I could see the fight in him in Tristan, and that was nice to see. Ryan ended up getting hurt during his Gretna match, and hopefully it's a short-term thing that's not going to be long, but we'll see. We'll find out more next week. That kind of hurt us down the road, I thought. We had to make some adjustments, I thought, against Plattsmouth. I think he gets a win and possibly a pin against them, and we keep Luke down at 52, and that I felt was a toss-up match that I thought Luke could win. So in that case, it ended up being, Ryan's injury cost us 9 points in swinging. And that's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. And Ryan being a senior, he's kind of a key individual for us. In some cases, and that was certainly a case. And also even in Waverly, I thought that might be a risk there. Yeah, I don't. Luke would have had a tough time winning at 52. I mean, that Knoyer's, the guy's a stud. But I would like to see him battle him and see what happens, and maybe he doesn't give up a pin. That helped us out. Right. So, missing Ryan in that also kind of hurt us in there. But anyhow, Ryan, we're hoping he's back soon. And I think so, but because he seemed to be doing pretty well on Saturday, so I'm hopeful. Then we go on to Logan Burmester. Logan won the wrestle off this week, the challenge match, and that's one of those that we talked about earlier in the year. That could go back and forth, and it could go either way. Right. Logan's more experienced and's got a little better technique right now, and has been really coming along this year. I've from what I've seen out of him this year, I like a lot more than we've seen in the past. Showing good improvements, so that's good. But as we talked about earlier with EMC, this was a tough one to jump right in first with and very tough weight class. He went. Knoyer was voted the outstanding wrestler, one of the outstanding wrestlers of the tournament. obviously goes against him. Huss from Gretna as a high medalist last year. And so you're going against a guy that's a potential state champion there, and really there's potentially 2 state champions. Wooten from Plattsmouth is I don't know if he's rated this year. I believe he is. I know he was rated some last year, but certainly good enough to be rated. That Zach Cerna from Norris, same thing. That kid's dang tough. I mean, every one of those guys, possibly a couple state champions and a couple state medalists out of that, and and so just a tough way to come in.
Right.
But Logan went out there and battled, and the Blair match, that was one of those two that, a close match that hopefully we get next time. And then Logan had a good win over Elkhorn. Looked real good wrestling. So, again, tough competition. Hopefully he's learns from it and gets better, and don't get discouraged.
Yep.
I mean, there's unless you're a state medalist, you're gonna lose at least 4 of those matches anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And even a state medalist is gonna lose a couple of those.
Right.
So that's just the EMC conference. Then we go on to Buzz. Now, the outstanding wrestler of the tournament was a tie between Nielsen and Blair and Knoyer at 70, but my vote went to Buzz. And the reason is, normally a lot of times when you have coaches and dual tournaments are tough to vote for a certain guy for outstanding wrestler, just because he may look good for you, but he may get upset somewhere along the line and get beat. So you might be voting for a guy with a loss. So it's hard. So most coaches, when they're voting, they're probably voting for a kid who's got name recognition. Nielsen's a state champion. Went undefeated. Knoyer, state medalist, beat a high medalist there too. Probably was second in my voting. If I wouldn't have voted for Buzz, I would have voted for him. Simply because he's a sophomore who beat a high state medalist and looked good too throughout the tournament. But the reason why I thought Buzz really deserved it, and he probably doesn't get it because nobody knows about him,
right?
Which is okay with me. They're going to know about him here in about a month or so.
Yep.
Downstate, but right now they're all like, "Who is this guy?"
Yep.
When we wrestle other teams, they're like, "Where'd he come from? And who is he?" And Buzz came a long way, and the reason why I voted for him again is he had all his matches were pins. It went 6-0, 6 pins, and 25-second pin, a 19-second pin, a 33-second pin, another 22-second pin, and 2 other first period pins. He didn't even wrestle a full match.
Nope. In
the whole tournament.
To do that in the EMC conference is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think any of those guys are state medalists that he beat, so I understand that part. But still, again, they're all solid wrestlers and they're all good wrestlers. And you're in the EMC, you just don't. It just doesn't happen.
I mean, I think back to a guy like Janovich, who now plays NFL football. I don't think he had that great of a, EMC tournament. I can't ever think of that. A guy going first period pins all the way through and not staying on the mat for less than 6 minutes. I mean, that's
right.
Something else.
And to pin a guy in less than 30 seconds is actually pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Because you got to be able to take him down first, and you got to put him on his back, and when they're fresh and they're able to bridge and do all kinds of things, they're a little more difficult to pin. But he puts them away pretty darn quick, and so real pleased with that. Real pleased with how far he's came and where he's going still. So certainly great tournament for Buzz. Moving on, we got Benton Benton started off fantastic. That kid from Blair is rated in one of the rankings. Benton gets a win there. That's a big win for him. And kid was also a state qualifier last year, so it's a good solid win for him. Then he had Norris, and that kid's rated number 3 in one of the rankings. And Benton goes out and gets a good solid win, a 10-3 win over him. So a big win there, and looking really good. Then just makes a little mistake in the Gretna match and gets caught and pinned. And then we have Elkhorn, who's a state medalist last year, and actually Benton beating him twice last year. So, that match actually started out kind of a little back and forth. That kid really wanted to throw him, and at one point I thought Benton was going to put him on his back, and it might be over then. So, kind of one of those pin or be pinned matches. They're both going for it, and Benton ended up getting tossed and pinned, and that kid's a very good wrestler. So, there and excuse me, Benton's, he's really, really good when he stays within his wheelhouse and what he can do and what he's good at, and we encourage our guys to wrestle what they're good at, and we do show a lot of technique. I understand that. Some of it doesn't work for everybody. So, we try to encourage kids, and when we talk to them and coach them up before matches and during and after and whatever, it's usually trying to steer them towards what they're good at. If you're a good cradler, stick with those cradles. If you're a good leg rider, stick with that. If you're not a good leg rider, don't try those legs.
Right. You'll get in trouble.
Figure it out in practice first. But Benton's really good at what he's doing when he gets out of that. We just got to work on not getting in trouble. So, anyhow, he's having a good season. We're just working on fixing those other things, and we're getting there. Just kind of got himself in trouble a couple times. That hopefully that's again something to learn from and get better. And that's part of our EMC conference. How solid it is. You want that test so that those mistakes don't happen at districts and state. They happen now. We get it fixed. We recognize it, get it fixed, and when it really matters at the end the most, hopefully it's all taken care of. Okay, going on to Garrett. Garrett started off with a little bit of an upset, unfortunately, the wrong way. Was winning the match and seemed to get a little bit comfortable with where he was at, and that ran from Blair's a dangerous kid. Garrett was winning it and looking like he was gonna finish off with a win, no problem. But third period is that Rand chose top, and all Garrett had to do was get out, and he'd be safe and fine. But it looked like he kind of relaxed a little bit. The guy was able to put on a cradle, and that was it. It was over. Good lesson for Garrett, and really all our guys is, the one thing about wrestling is you could just never relax on somebody, because it doesn't matter what the score is. You get pinned, you're pinned, and it's over. And so you can't relax at any point, and and I don't know if Garrett relaxed that much, but it was enough that had his head down, and when your head's down, you can get cradled easier, and it happened. So, but after that, Garrett looked good as always. I mean, he went through and pinned everybody else, as if he was upset about what happened before, and pinned them all the way up to the last match, and. They had Pfeiffer from Plattsmouth in the last duel. Pfeiffer's a returning state medalist and ranked number 1 in his weight class on Husker mat. So Certainly a very tough opponent. And Garrett came out with a 9-7 win. He beat the Plasma's kid, and he beat the official in that match.
Yeah. A lot of calls did not go his way, to say the least.
Yeah. And in the end, I think it was maybe 2 extra points the guy got out of some exchanges, but that were really peculiar. And I guess just, those things happen. We tell our kids, you can't let that bother you. And that was the nice thing about Garrett. That didn't get him mad or frustrated. He just kept wrestling.
Yep.
And he ended up getting a 9-7 win, good solid win over a good wrestler. And that should really help Garrett's confidence. Getting a win over him, that should show him that, and wrestling some other kids real tough. Earlier in the year, he's right there. As far as winning the state title, and certainly the Blair match earlier is a reminder that don't let up.
Mm-hmm.
But when he wrestles his best, there's certainly Chewy from Schuyler is going to be really tough to beat.
Mm-hmm.
So is Northwest Kid, and Plasmith will be tough again. But he's right there. Every one of those matches, he was right in there. It's just it's a matter of maybe him getting the takedown than the other kid.
Yep.
Situation. So that should really give Garrett confidence now, and that's something he needed. And I felt that last year too. We talked a lot about that when he gets confidence and starts believing in himself, he's going to be really, really tough to beat. And I think he's getting there, and hopefully that helps him there too. Okay, and then we get to our 285. We got a couple freshmen, really freshmen 220-pounders.
Yeah.
Kind of stepped in there.
Almost 197-pounders.
And, and this was a tough time to put them in. And, and I thought about it, and, but I wanted to see where they're at. There were a couple matches that I thought potentially we have a shot at if they wrestled well. But I also wanted to see where they're at with the real big boys, the good wrestlers, if it's worth keeping them in there. And we have Aiden still out there yet coming off his injury. He got his cast off, and so he's got some therapy to go through, and I'm not sure. We don't know yet when he'll be back, but I would say, I'm sure he's before the end of the season. And all 3 of those guys are real close.
Right.
When we were doing the wrestle-offs early in the year, they're all very close. So, boy, one of these days I'll get over this thing. Getting a lot better, but still. Anyhow, I don't know if we'll throw those guys in those situations again. But I did want to see where they're at.
Right.
And also, at some point you got to start battling with those big, the tough kids and starting developmental toughness. But seeing them out there wrestle, there's just first of all they're too light for 285 when you got a guy that's weighing 260, 270. Our guys are 215. I mean, Chevy barely made the minimum weight. So physically, you can see they're not. It's nothing against them. You can't help that.
Yeah. When you're 90 pounds lighter, that's ways to go.
Well, now that maturity-wise, in 2 years from now, they'll probably you run through puberty and put on some muscle, and things will be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But until that point, I think we'll be a little more careful about that. Who we'll put out there. Certainly if they want to go out, we're not going to hold them back. And I also did give them the opportunity at one point. Chevy asked that, hey, you don't have to go out if you don't want. This kid's pretty big, and he's like, no, I'm not that type of person. I'm going to go out there. So I was, proud of that he was not afraid to go out. The last day we put Jake out there in the last couple of matches against Wavering and Plasmith, and both those. Those are 2 really tough ones to go out against. And I thought about that, whether I should or not. And I know Jake wanted a challenge for 285 this last week. So I thought, well, if I don't put him out, is that a slap in the face for not letting him go out there? And I want to see where he's at too with it. So, certainly in the future, if the guys want to take on these big boys, they're welcome to, but we'll watch that and kind of play that by ear. And because if they're not physically ready, we'll make sure we're really talking to them about what thing is. And again, with Aiden coming back, who knows? Aiden may want to jump out there. He's ready to go, he says. So,
yep.
Anyhow, it looks like we're getting long here. But that's pretty much about individuals. Other than that, we had JVs get in there for some matches. I think everybody that we brought at least got a match. Not a lot, but it's about getting some experience for those guys. So, I guess maybe on to the team stuff. If my voice makes that through, but starting off with Blair. That duel, I was really disappointed, I guess. That's the easiest way to put it. I didn't expect to beat him. I knew what Blair's like, how good they are. Right now, if they're not the number one team in the state, they're in duels, they're close to it. But I thought we should have done a lot better. I thought there was 3 matches there we just gave away. That just simple little mistakes. Keeping our head down, not giving enough hip pressure, executing a proper go behind. All things that we work on every day, all the time. And easily could have won 3 more matches. Would he win the duel? No. Would it be respectable? Yes. Instead, it ended up being
a pretty lopsided loss.
Yeah. So there, I got it a little cleared out, a little better. But actually, when I looked at the score afterward, later on, I thought it was a lot worse. It felt a lot worse. It is pretty bad, 55-12. That is pretty bad. But I was expecting 60-something or more to not much. And but anyhow, a little bit better. I think we're going to be competitive with them, but really respectable. But anyhow, that didn't go off too well. But and then we got to Norris, and Norris is a very tough team. They beat some good teams. They beat Waverly. Waverly's a ranked team. So Norris is a dangerous team, and we actually started off wrestling that one pretty poorly also. So we went from wrestling Blair, I thought poorly, to going to Norris and not wrestling well there, and all of a sudden, like, what's going on, guys? Come on, let's just simple technique that we got to execute. And about halfway through that duel, they seemed to settle down and wrestled a lot better. And to be honest, I early on, about halfway through the duel, I didn't think we were going to win the duel. But then we settled down and wrestled real well towards the end, and ended up winning the duel. And really, one of the key wins was Hunter Anderson when he 106. He was the last guy. Actually, we still had, I think Garrett was still wrestling on the other mat. They had split the mats, and so he actually got his pin before Garrett did, and
yep.
And I was worried about, that kid had a winning record, and so Hunter dominated him and got the pin, and I thought that was kind of a key to us winning the duel in the end.
I think it sealed it up at that point.
Well, he didn't really seal. I don't think. Well, let's see. He didn't really seal it because Garrett was still wrestling. When Garrett got the pin, then that did seal it. Because if Garrett gets pinned, there's a 12-point swing, and maybe we lose a duel. So anyhow, started off a little rough in that and got a lot better. Guys kind of settled down and wrestled a lot better. And then Gretna, going into it, I thought we had some chances there to win that duel. As far as that duel goes, obviously Gretna's tough. They're in Class A now, and they're in good all sports. I can't say that we wrestled bad like some of the other, like early on. We just ran into some tough kids. Ryan Green getting hurt, right? That kind of hurt that chance. That would have been a tough one to win, but instead of giving up injury default, which is 16 points, maybe we keep it closer. We get upset at 95, I felt. I think we either get a pin or at least a win in that one normally. Kind of get caught in that one. And, so there was a few places that we could have made the duel interesting. So the one thing I would say that duel was more their intensity compared to ours that we need to pick up. And we had that same issue a little bit at the Fracas that kind of snuck back in there against Gretna. They came out attacking and very aggressive, and we just didn't respond like we should right away.
Right.
But something with again, we gotta when you got younger kids, less experience, that kind of intimidates them.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get past that. Somebody comes out intense and aggressive, you weather the storm and wrestle good technique, and you'll be fine. Okay, and then we had Elkhorn after that. Thought we wrestled well there. Nothing really fantastic and or outstanding in that I could think of. They're a team that is getting better. They've been down for a lot of years. They got a new coach, so they're on the rise. But we did a nice job, I thought, there in doing what we're supposed to do. Then the second day, we had the Nebraska City bye, forfeit there. Then we took on Waverly, and Waverly's a ranked team. They beat Gretna, so they are legitimately a good team. And I thought we wrestled them as good as we did as any match duel in the tournament. We probably wrestled them the best we did the whole tournament. Okay. Try to get to that one on my screen here, so I see if there's anything to add to that. There's not much I could say about. I thought, like I said, that the standout thing was really two things that stood out to me in that duel. Colby Puck getting a pin over Davenport from Waverly. Last year, that kid pins Colby and really dominated Colby and pinned him. This year, it's the opposite. Colby pretty much dominated and then pinned that kid. So great to see his improvement from last year. Also, I thought Zach Utek wrestled about as good as he did all year. In his match, he came out aggressive, going after the kid, doing the stuff that he's good at, and ended up getting a pin. And that kid wasn't a bad kid. It's not like he beat up on some inexperienced wrestler that never wrestled before. If I remember his record, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it wasn't bad. I thought it'd be a toss-up match, and really it wasn't close. So really happy to see that out of Zach, and hope to see more in the future. But other than that, like I said, we wrestled great, and Waverly's ranked number 9 in one poll, and I think he's higher in another. I don't remember what the other one was. So beating a top 10 team was fantastic, and again they did beat Gretna, so they're legit. and we won that one pretty comfortably. Then we got to Plattsmouth. And that was the last duel. That came down to we win that duel, we're second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we lose, we end up fourth overall. So, going into it, I thought we had a shot. As I mentioned earlier, I thought that Ryan's injury made it difficult on us, made it a little more challenging. I think that was a 9-point swing in their favor. Still not enough to win the duel as the results showed, but there were a couple matches. I thought that again the little things snuck up on us.
Mm-hmm.
That we finish a goal behind properly, we win a match. I mean,
Right.
It's simple. It's overtime. We're in good position to score, to win. We let up on our pressure, we pull out the whizzer, let up on our pressure, and all of a sudden the guy repenetrates, and then he's in a better position and takes us down. We keep that whizzer in, we keep the pressure on, we finish right, we win.
Right.
Okay, something like that. That's 6 points. There was another match. Trying to remember what the scenario on that, but oh yeah, I know what it was. But and these were against good kids. These are not against slouches.
Right.
So, and that's the thing that the wins, the big matches, the state championship matches, get you. These can be key even for state. And in fact, the two losses I'm thinking of that were extremely close, we might have to beat those guys to go to state.
Right.
And because they're in our district, and our district is tough. We got Blair, we got Scott, we got Plattsmouth, and Columbus Lakeview. Columbus Lakeview is as good as Plattsmouth or Blair, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're kind of not a traditional team, but believe me, watch out. They're that good. They had a good season last year. They returned to most state qualifiers. They were all young. Now they're a year older. Watch out for them. So, anyhow, it's going to come down to we might have to beat one of the Blair kids or one of the Plattsmouth kids that beat us this weekend. And those close matches, we're going to need to turn those around and turn those into wins. So, I thought in the end, even with Ryan out, there's 3 matches that were swing matches that we lost that we should have won or could have won if we executed better. That was 21 team points. We lost by 18. Think about that. We should have beat Plattsmouth if we wrestled with solid technique. Plattsmouth is one of the top teams. I know Husker Matt talks about them and Blair as being probably the 2 elite teams in Class B. I don't disagree with that. Plattsmouth gave Blair a good match. I think Northwest is out there yet. That's a very, very tough team.
Right.
Lakeview, haven't seen them as a dual team, but with what they got returning, I got to imagine they're very tough. But, Plattsmouth and Blair, our 2 teams are certainly deserving a conversation of the best in the state in Class B. And we could beat them.
Yeah.
Depends on how you look at it. Is the glass half full or half empty? As a coach, when it's going on and it's half empty because we're not completing technique properly. But that's where those little things matter is the big matches. And that's why it's good that we had this EMC. I think this is going to be very, very beneficial to us down the road. I think it's going to help our team a lot. As much as it hurt this weekend, I think it's going to help us.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Highlight the little things that we need to tweak to get the wins and to make the difference between qualifying and not, medaling and not.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
And we got film on this stuff too to work with. Because these are our district teams, some of them. And it drives it home to kids. I mean, you can tell kids all day long, get that anchor, get that anchor. I think they get tired of us saying that. But now you see it. That cost me a match. I didn't do the little thing they tell me every day to do right, and it cost me a match. So hopefully that drives that home more, and they started getting it. So looking at it that way, one way, like I said, the glass half empty, but you can also look at this weekend too as a glass half full. Going into the tournament, I'm thinking, man, we could easily drop 4 or 5 duels, no problem, and lose that many duels, and wrestle well still. That's what how good the EMC is. So the glass half full thing was that we wrestled one of the best teams in the state in Plattsmouth and had chances to win it. So our guys are, for the experience level that we are at, and I hate using that anymore. I think at this point I'm trying to keep away from that, and probably won't say that much more just because we're halfway through the season. That you can't use that excuse for very long. Even if you're a freshman, it's time to start learning and figuring it out. But still, it's there. For where we're at, really happy that we're competitive with these teams. You had told me that back in November or October, I would have never imagined that we could even be close to, would be considered one of the top teams, that have a legitimate chance at winning a state title in the duels. And as a dual team, we would be competitive with them or have a chance to beat them. Mm-hmm. So that, from that point of view, it's good. Like I said, we had Gretna. I thought a few things go different. I mean, other than the Blair duel, I think we could have won every duel if we wrestled a little bit different. So we're right there competitive. So looking at that point of view, plus we did have some big wins. Like I said, Benton had a couple big wins in there. Garrett had a big win. Colby had some good wins, over some quality kids. Buzz had a tremendous tournament. And I'm probably missing some other little things here or there, but a lot of positives to bring out of it too. But again, a lot to work on, and I think that's positive. We can fix that stuff. All right.
That's about it for EMC duels.
I think so. I don't know.
Took about an hour just going over those.
Well, like I said, a lot. We learned a lot from them, and my voice is barely hanging on right now. So,
just a reminder that today's show is sponsored by Midwest Designs. That's midwestdesigns.org. If you order the clear bags in January, you'll get $5 off. So 25 drops to 20 on the backpacks, and 20 drops to 15 on the clear totes. So go to midwestdesigns.org and shoot us a contact to get you a clear bag made for state. So next, we just kind of look ahead to the upcoming week, a dual-filled week. No tournaments on Saturday.
Little break on the weekend for him.
So, but Monday actually JV starts off at Oakland Craig. A nice little JV tournament there. I think 4 or 5 mats and Monday afternoon. Anything you want to talk about with that one?
We're getting into the season for the JV. They're going to get a lot of matches now, and they got a little bit before Christmas, but now they're going to hit a bunch with Oakland, and then Elkhorn following that, and then also got Lexington coming up. So great experience for them. Oakland's a good invite that they bring in a lot of different teams from Class B, C. And maybe even some A schools in there, but good wide range of teams and great experience for our guys. So we got 14 guys going up to that on Monday, and hopefully bring a lot of hardware and most importantly get some great experience for them.
Yep. On Tuesday, Syracuse comes to town. We have our annual Rumble on the Ring with them. on all the Capital Conference rivals. We went back and forth for many years in the Capital Conference with them.
Yep. You mentioned Rumble in the Ring, and people ask, well, what is that? Well, that was something that when we left the Capital Conference for the EMC conference, the head coach at that time and I had talked to say, we were both the top two teams in the conference, and we were battling back and forth every year, and say we got to keep this going. So we kind of created it. We have a little trophy, a traveling trophy. The winning team gets to keep it for a year. And even before that, and actually there was a couple years before we started it, we got out, we had dueled. They had won a couple duels, we'd won some. I think, in fact, they might have had the upper hand at least at first, and since we started this Rumble in the Ring with the traveling trophy, we've won it every year. I'm kind of starting to feel guilty now that that wasn't the purpose at the time. We were two equal type of teams, success-wise, and I'm not saying Syracuse hasn't had success. They've had some state champs. They've had 3-time state champ. Just last year, graduated. They've had a couple. Excuse me. Yeah, a couple other state champions in there, especially at their heavyweights. They may have as many or more state champs than us in the last 10 years, which is unusual. But on the dual side, we've just gotten stronger, and they've had a little more holes, so it's been a little bit tougher for them to win the duels. But they usually have good competition. Them being Class C and us growing, I don't know how long they'll want to keep doing this. State tournament or dual tournament point wise, that's something too we got to look at too in the future. Right. But anyhow, for now, that's kind of a little bit of the history behind it. While it may seem lopsided right now, at one point it was a very competitive duel, and two teams that had a lot of history together of very competitive competition.
Yep. Thursday, we bring Takema Herman and Logan Magnolia to Bennington. We'll be in the big gym, the main gym for that one.
Yep.
Takema, a Class C team that's had a lot of history. Logan Magnolia has always been a tough team in Iowa. Highly rated dual team in the past. So it should be a good set of duels there on Thursday.
Yeah, Takema's, again, it's a lot like Syracuse when we're talking. A lot of tradition between the schools. Again, the direction we're going growth-wise and where Takema is at, I don't know how long they want to continue that either, or us. And it's nothing against them. They still put out some good individuals. Takema traditionally has been one of the best wrestling teams in all Class C history. Bennington also, when we were in Class C, the top, I'd say if you look at the history of Class C up until we left, it was Bennington and Takema. We had more individuals than anybody else, individual state champions than anybody else. Takema had the most state champion teams than anybody else. So two traditional teams, been doing this for years. So we've had some historic duels, some of these are in the book. Again, read the book and you'll hear some of these stories. But there were some of those duels we had between each other. One year actually Takema was Class B and we were Class C. We were number one, and this is probably the most famous history moment in Bennington wrestling. At least since I've been around, was the 1990s duel when they were ranked number one and we were ranked number one. And you'll have to read more in the book on that one. But certainly a lot of history behind it. We've become a more solid dual team with our growth in our school, and they, if anything, have shrunk in size. And so while they have some good individuals, the duel wise, it's more of a struggle for them. And since it's a triangular, it's not as bad that we'll get a couple matches between two teams. And Logan Magnolia, you mentioned that. They're still pretty solid.
Yep.
They're going to be a tough one to win. Yes, they're a very good team in Iowa. Traditionally, they've won their state dual tournament. They make the state dual tournament many times in Iowa. So very good dual team. And I really like wrestling them because, they got a new coach. So, we'll see in a year or two what direction they go. I suspect they'll stay solid, but very well coached team. Technique, overall technique and everything. I always felt, even in Scott's glory years, no disrespect to Scott, but more compliment to Logan Magnolia. They were probably one of the best well-coached teams we saw all year, I felt. Just on their technique part and how good, solid their technique. And even their kids who weren't maybe not great athletically, their technique was solid and they were winning matches. So I liked wrestling them because we had to be solid in our technique. And it just helped us make us better. And I thought we were two mirror images of each other and always some good duels. So we'll get good competition out of them, But again, like you say, there's just those, or that duel on Tuesday, triangular Thursday, and Saturday, the weekend, we have nothing, no tournament. Time for the kids to relax a little bit, unless we decide to have practice, I guess. That's not out of the question, but not on the schedule right now.
Yep.
It's kind of be an incentive for them to have a good week of practice.
There you go.
If you have a good week of practice, wrestle well, we'll give them Saturday off. If not, we might
might
meet
need
up,
that extra practice.
Meet up a little bit Saturday morning, but we'll see.
Yep. So then, as always, we touch on the state duels wild card. As of Friday, prior to the EMC duels, we were sitting 12th at 9-6 with that 43.26666 points. 44 still seems to be that magic number right now. There's teams sitting above and below the line right at 44. A number of teams ahead of us that didn't have the 6 dual limit yet, or minimum yet, but I know Plattsmouth will have gone over that limit. I know there's a couple of those teams that will have gone over that limit this weekend, and more will be getting. They'll all go over that limit. There's not any teams above us that are gonna not make the 6 duels. So got a little bit of ground to make up if we want to qualify. It's going to be close, but yep, sitting at 12th right now. Any other questions other than the ones that you had been presented to at the start of the show?
No, I really didn't get any questions from anybody this week. But I think we covered a lot here.
Yeah.
And the hour and 20 minutes looks like right now. That's I didn't think it'd be this long, but I did say I had a lot of information, so I guess that was right.
Prepared everybody for a long show with the email from last night.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up then. Tune in next week. We'll recap the duels that we have this week, and then we'll be looking forward at the to the Burke duel and the Lexington Invite weekend, that next weekend. So once again, on Sundays, 2:00. Tune in. We'll see you then.